When it comes to financial gurus, Dave Ramsey is one of the best, but there are a few things within the 7 baby steps that I don't really agree with, and I want to be covering them in this video today. So, looking at Dave Ramsey, if you spend any time in personal finance, if you've seen him online and know who he is, total money makeover, step-by-step program, baby steps to get out of debt, using the snowball method instead of the avalanche method, which I absolutely do love. But there are some questionable things, again, that he kind of looks at. And the first one is don't invest until the debt is paid off. This, of course, is step number 2, which is very vigorously, really, for a lot of people, unrealistic to pay off debt in the example that he sets of really beans and rice, which of course is not just eating beans and rice, but literally scrapping everything in your entire life. Now, being a financial counselor myself, what I have seen is when it comes to debt and when it comes to paying off debt to this extreme, there is a very, very small amount of people that can actually do this, taking control of their money, building up a budget, getting an emergency fund. And of course, the first baby step that he covers is getting $1,000 in emergency fund. And then, like I said, that second baby step is just like fire, is putting every single dollar until the debt is gone in its entirety. For a lot of Americans, this could mean years, could even be decades before the debt is entirely eliminated, meaning you're not getting any of the investing out of your portfolio. You're not seeing any of the retirement planning. And without investing, you're not seeing the company match. You're not seeing the tax benefits. There are a lot of things that you're missing when it doesn't come and when you really put off this step of investing. Now, I do agree when you look at, debt itself, there is a point of debt where credit card debt I could agree with. But when it comes to the rest of the debt, when you're thinking of auto loan debt, when you think of the lower interest debt, it doesn't make sense to really rush it and burn it down like fire to get it completely done. When we start looking at credit card debt as a nation, $6,000 to $8,000, which is the average household on how much debt they're carrying, and roughly $24,000 in auto loan debt they are carrying as well, which again could take many, many years, even going and putting all of your money into it before you ever get there. And like I had said, that is missing out on compounding interest. You're missing out on 401k match. You're essentially missing out on free money by using this methodology, which is the reason why me personally, getting that $1,000 set aside, yes, I definitely agree with that. Having something to keep you from really continuing on the debt cycle, borrowing more money, and if anything should happen, people go right back to borrowing on credit cards, borrowing on unsecured debt. Saving that first 1,000 does make sense. Second one I would say is going in, getting a 401k, getting that full match. And then, of course, aiming it into that high interest debt, looking at the credit card debt, trying to get rid of that quickly, and then going back and probably doing a little bit more of the investing side of it before I start paying off some of the vehicles or some of the lower interest debt. Second one, don't focus on a credit score. Now, being in the financial industry, this is one of those where Ramsey really argues that credit scores are not important, that people don't need credit cards, and he calls it a I love debt score. But the big thing is when you think of a credit score, it is not just to borrow money. When you start looking and expanding that horizon into other things, when you start looking for, let's say, getting an apartment, guess what? You got to have a credit card, or excuse me, not a credit card. You got to have a credit score. Credit cards do help build your credit score. Credit cards also, if used as a tool, if used properly, if paid off in full, can make a big difference in having a good score. But even looking outside of that, when you start looking at a score in general, it could mean the difference between getting a job or not getting a job because of your credit score. When you start looking at car insurance companies, when you look at cell phone providers, they base your rate on your credit score. If you don't have a credit score, you are going to get a much higher rate. For auto insurance, you're going to get a much higher rate. For cell phone services, there are a lot of things, again, including employers that use this for the job and really the consideration. That is another, again, kind of fallacy that I see, is not having a score at all could be very detrimental. Now, of course, when you get to a point of having enough assets, let's say you're at, 100,000, 500,000, $1 million in assets. Credit scores at that point, when you get to that level of the game, don't have the impact and don't really make a difference. When you're generating enough revenue through income, when you're generating enough revenue through dividends, when you're getting, interest, when you're getting a lot of other things, you're on the other side of the equation, but it takes a lot to get there. When you get to the point where, hey, do I need a credit score to get a vehicle? The answer for a lot of people that are on that side, no. I can pay cash for a vehicle. If it's $30,000, if it's $50,000, we can purchase it outright. We don't need a credit score at all. We have no need for it at all. And the last one that we look at is paying a mortgage off early. Now, for me, he is a big advocate of paying down the mortgage early. Now, honestly, being completely debt free in the debt free journey makes sense. For me, at a certain point in life, I do want to be completely debt free. I am on the debt free journey. I want to eliminate the mortgage, but at what expense? When I look at the opportunity cost of one, putting a lot of extra money towards my mortgage, or two, investing the difference, it also depends on your interest rate. If you're looking at an individual that's sitting at 6-7% interest rate, which is current environment of what we have, or if you see someone like myself that is sitting at 2.5%, chances are if I'm investing the money, I can make a lot more than 2.5%. And if you looked at the S&P 500 this year, it has been absolutely wildfire. If you're investing in Bitcoin, it's been crazy as well. There are so many investment vehicles right now that are doing incredibly easy or really doing incredibly well, where if I took my funds and I put it all towards the mortgage, I wouldn't be seeing these gains. I wouldn't be seeing the big portfolio that I have. Now, my plan to paying off a mortgage early is building up my investment portfolio over the next 5 years. At the age of 50, taking what I need out of that portfolio, paying off the mortgage in full, being done with it, and allowing me essentially from 50 to 60 or 65 when we plan to retire to really just go all in kind of crazy when it comes to investing and really building up that portfolio, getting it ready for retirement. That way we don't have to worry about it. Now, of course, when you get to the point of paying off early, you're meaning that getting, again, the financial, the FOO or the financial order of operations, when you get to paying down the mortgage, you have everything already set. You have 15% going into your 401k or a combination of IRAs. You have your HSA that's fully funded. You also do have all of your other investment vehicles, including MESP programs for your children, if you have them, is fully invested at this point before you get to paying off the mortgage. But like I said, even where I can bulk up, and I have really bulked up and built up those investment accounts, where if I ever did need the money, right now I have enough and I've already passed the mark that I could pull the money out of an investment account, pay the taxes, pay off the mortgage, be completely done. But when I'm looking at running off and really paying off that 2.5% mortgage, it doesn't make sense to me. I am very driven by mathematics, looking at the reason. And I know, of course, they say paying off the mortgage early might financially not make sense. But when it comes to the psychological aspect, when it comes to the sense of well-being, that a lot of people will go ahead and pay off the mortgage because, of course, they cannot take a house that doesn't have a mortgage or is mortgage free. They can if you don't have taxes. So if you're sitting at a mortgage really below 4%, well, the S&P this last decade is yielding 12.8%. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like I said, if I'm looking at the S&P 500 yielding 12.8%, my mortgage is at 2.5%. It really makes different. I know there's market fluctuation. I know there's risk associated with it. But when I look at the return of what I'm getting in the market and really the amount of money we're putting into the market, it's kind of a no-brainer for me to continue that cycle, even if we have a down year. I am looking at the average performance of the S&P 500, and let's say right now that's, I believe, 10.4%. Even if it runs just at that average, I am still up 7.4 or 7.5%, 7.9% technically, if it has the exact same run rate in the future, meaning I'm making 7% on my money instead of paying off the mortgage in the entirety. So guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Now looking again, talking about the 7 baby steps, those are really the 3 that kind of, I feel like they need to be revamped or they need to be adjusted, maybe relooked at. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about Dave Ramsey and what you think of those baby steps. And as always, thank you guys for watching.